Hey there, friends. Mike, Soundstage EDU. And I want to talk to you about volunteering today. We're at the beginning of the season. Volunteering is about to get deep and heavy and thick. The need's going to grow. You got a whole batch of new parents, and you're like, yes, fresh meat, right? I know you're thinking that. It's okay. But let me give this one disclaimer before anybody within a 50-mile radius of me starts to send me DMs or texting me, sending me emails. I need you to hear that. No, this is not about you. And you know what? That's not entirely true. It might be about you. It might also be about me. It might also be about every booster organization, youth theater, marching band, drum corps, PTA, sports team, church committee, nonprofit, literally any community organization has ever stared at a sign-up sheet 3 days before an event and they said, why will nobody volunteer? But I do need to put a disclaimer on this episode because I know how some of you operate. The examples I'm going to use today are intentionally dramatized. I've changed the events. I've changed the numbers. I've combined things I've seen in different organizations, different communities, and different parts of my life. And quite honestly, from a lot of the groups that I'm a part of, can't participate in, but I can still read, I can still see them, and I'm seeing this stuff happen, and I can't say anything. It's driving me nuts. So if you're listening to this and you feel that this has value for someone else in those groups, please carry this message into that group for me because I can't do it. So copy the link, do whatever, copy the post from Soundstage EDU page and carry that into the places that I'm not allowed to participate in right now. That'll help a lot. Some of you have asked, how can we help? That's how. So, like I said, I've changed everything. It's all drawn from real situations and real people. But I'm not going to, I don't expose people here. I don't expose programs or situations. I expose patterns because the patterns apply to a lot of us here. Pardon me. There's a big old hair on my glasses and it was driving me nuts. It's real life, y'all. Really is. So, what was I saying? Oh, yeah. If you guys are listening to this and you suddenly think, oh my God, he's talking about us. Maybe I am. But probably not in the way that you think. Because I hear from this vantage point, I'm talking about something much, much bigger. And I think we might be asking the wrong question as a community. So let's invent a fundraiser. We'll say that we're selling, it's something I like. Potatoes. Why? Why potatoes? Because, honestly, currently nobody I know right now is currently running a potato fundraiser. And if you are, I'm sorry. So, okay. Story time with Mike. We've got the great annual booster potato extravaganza. Can one of y'all out there do this because that would be hilarious? Potato extravaganza. I love potatoes. Used to be part of an organization that cooked potatoes for a big fundraiser that they did. And the potatoes weren't the fundraiser. They're just feeding people these potatoes. And everyone in the community had to bake 50 potatoes the morning of. It was nuts. But anyway. So, the great annual booster potato extravaganza. We need 12 adults, 6 students, 2 shifts. The sign up goes out and then crickets. Nothing. And then one person signs up. Yes. 3 days later, somebody else signs up. Cool. Eventually, a board member realizes this thing is approaching and starts filling multiple holes because somebody has to keep the Great Potato Extravaganza alive. And then inevitably, somebody says, well, my gosh, Nobody wants to volunteer anymore. And you've heard that sentence, right? I've heard it. Hell, I've probably said it. I mean, parents are too busy. Kids don't want to work. Everybody wants somebody else to do it. Nobody wants to be involved. And listen, sometimes that's true. People are busy. Families are stretched ridiculously thin. I see that in my own life here. I'm like, oh my God, how are we going to get from day to day? And then, you know what? Some people just genuinely don't want to help. That's fact. But lately, I've really started to wonder whether we've turned that explanation into kind of a crutch. Because now I want to introduce you to another completely fictional opportunity, but it's a scenario I saw play out. Okay? We're going to call this next opportunity the extremely cool thing. Right? It's a cool thing. So we're dealing with the same basic population, same teenagers, same exhausted parents, same ridiculous family calendars, same Saturday that everybody supposedly does not have available. Except this time, somebody says, hey guys, there's an opportunity to work at this really cool regional event. And suddenly, everybody wants to go. The kids are talking about it. Friends are recruiting friends. Slots disappear rapidly. Parents who supposedly don't have time are suddenly coordinating rides. Somebody creates a carpool. Another parent says they'll drive home. Some poor idiot gets volunteered to stay there all day supervising teenagers. And suddenly those logistical problems that made volunteering impossible 30 minutes ago are being solved like we're coordinating the Normandy invasion. And that made me start to think, wait a minute. These are the same people. They didn't suddenly become less busy. I mean, school just started. Frickin' A, it's busy. Their calendars didn't magically clear. If anything, my calendar keeps getting busier every day. Jobs didn't disappear. People still had to go to work. Nobody gave them an extra Saturday. So, honestly, what changed? You feeling me? And that made me think that maybe we're measuring the wrong value. When an organization evaluates a fundraiser, they tend to look at financial value. How much does it cost? How much labor does it require? What's the margin? How much money do we make per hour? All of those questions are very, very important. So please continue asking those questions. I mean, honestly, your treasurer would probably appreciate that. But I think there's another column missing from this spreadsheet here, and that's participation value. What does somebody receive from the experience of helping? And before somebody gets mad at me, I'm not saying volunteers need to be compensated. I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about the completely normal human question. Do I want to do this? Because volunteering can provide value that has absolutely nothing to do with money. Maybe it's fun. Maybe their friends are there. Maybe they get access to something interesting. Maybe they learn something. Maybe they feel important. Maybe the parent gets to spend time with their kid when the kid otherwise doesn't want to spend time with them. Maybe the parent meets other parents. Maybe there's novelty. Maybe they get a great story afterwards. Maybe they feel like they're genuinely contributing instead of just occupying slot number 7 on Sign Up Genius. I mean, those things matter to people. They matter a lot. Organizations love to use the phrase that we need volunteers. And I'm sorry, but we need volunteers is not very compelling, is it? But you love to say it. Hey guys, we need volunteers. Okay. For what? To help. Doing what? Whatever needs done. How long? Probably 6 hours. Will I know anybody? Maybe. Is it fun? Not really. Will anyone explain what I'm doing? Someone should be there. Excellent. Where do I sign? And then we're shocked when the sign-up sheet looks like a middle school dance floor 10 minutes after music starts. You know what I mean? Nobody wants to go first. Because in this situation, nobody knows what they're actually walking into. And Nobody has given them a reason to actually even want to be there in the first place. We've turned volunteering into filling vacancies. Now, compare that with an invitation. Listen to the difference here. Hey, a bunch of us are doing this Saturday. You come with us. Do you feel that? That's not recruitment. It's not. That's an invitation. And humans respond very differently to invitations, especially teenagers. Teenagers generally don't wake up Saturday morning thinking, you know what would be real? You know what's going to really fulfill me today? First, I wouldn't even use the word fulfill, would they? Probably not. But you know what would really fulfill me today? Unpaid labor benefiting a nonprofit corporation. I mean, that they're not, right? I mean, I know that sounded dumb, but they do absolutely wake up thinking, hold up, Maya, Brooke, and Eli are all going? Hell yeah, I'm going. And once the kid wants to go, something fascinating happens. That transportation problem gets solved. The scheduling problem gets solved. Parents start texting each other. People trade pickup and drop off. Someone figures out food. Someone rearranges something. Those exact same barriers that seemed insurmountable when the organization said, hey guys, we need volunteers, suddenly become logistical puzzles worth solving. I think that's pretty important, don't you? And let's say the hard thing here. Stop calling people lazy for just a minute. Because I think this is where organizations need to be careful. Because when participation starts declining, it's really easy for the existing leadership to develop a story about everyone else. That's when you start hearing things like nobody cares anymore. Parents aren't like they used to be. These younger parents don't volunteer. Kids today don't want to work. Everybody expects the board to do everything. Maybe. But before we decide we've discovered a massive generational character defect, could we possibly diagnose the experience? Now, some of you are listening to this and say, well, I've never said that. I've never heard those things. I'm telling you, I hear it all the time, over and over and over again. I've seen it in my own threads in the groups that I'm not allowed in anymore until November 9th. I've heard those things ad nauseum all the time. Specifically those things. That's why I cite them. That's why I have them written down and they're hanging on my wall. So let's try and diagnose the experience, okay? Because if people consistently decline one kind of opportunity and enthusiastically participate in another kind of opportunity, you don't have an apathy problem. You have data. Something's different. So figure out what that is. Ask the people who said yes. It's one of my favorite questions, and it's ridiculously simple. You ready? It goes like this. Hey, what made you decide to do this? Don't start with the people who don't volunteer. Start with the people who do. Hey, why are you here? And don't lead them. Don't say, did you volunteer because you wanted to support the kids? Of course they're going to say yes. Ask the open question. Made you sign up? And then shut up. You might hear, my friend was doing it. My daughter asked me. I did it last year and it was fun. I wanted to see what this was all about. I figured I'd meet people. I like doing this kind of thing. My kid, well, believe it or not, they actually wanted me here. That information right there is gold. Because now you're discovering your organization's activation mechanisms. So, here on this podcast, we talk constantly about building community. Then we design volunteer opportunities that have almost no community built into them. That's weird. It's really weird. If I want somebody to give me 4 hours of their Saturday, I should probably care whether those 4 hours are miserable. You know what I mean? And you know what? Sometimes we can't fix that. I get that. Sometimes some jobs just suck. Somebody has to unload the trailer. Somebody has to clean something. Somebody has to stand somewhere boring. Somebody has to sell the fictional potatoes. Fine, whatever. But even boring work can have social value. Put people together, recruit teams instead of individuals, let friends sign up together, have experienced parents personally invite new parents, tell people exactly what they'll be doing, tell them who they'll be working with, feed them, make them laugh, introduce them to somebody, thank them like their time in your organization actually mattered. Give them some ownership, because there's an enormous psychological difference between I gave up my Saturday because the booster club couldn't find anybody else, and we did this thing together on Saturday. That first one feels like obligation. That second one, that's belonging. Because this isn't really an episode about fundraising. And you know what? You knew I was going to do this. It's about culture. Organizations teach people what participation feels like. If someone's first experience volunteering is confusing, lonely, disorganized, and thankless, you taught them something. You know what that is? Unequivocally, it's, hey, don't do that again. And then 6 months later, why can we never get new people involved? Well, we trained them that way. Conversely, if someone's first experience is organized, social, useful, and dare say it, maybe even fun, they might come back. Then they know somebody. Then the next step, next sign up doesn't feel intimidating. Then maybe they actually invite someone. And eventually you have something much more valuable than a volunteer list, because you've created a community. I spend a lot of time talking about governance and leadership and culture, communication, organizational systems. And sometimes those conversations uncover complicated problems. But sometimes the explanation is wonderfully boring. Maybe people aren't refusing to volunteer because society has collapsed. Maybe they don't hate your organization. Maybe they aren't selfish. Maybe they're not lazy. Maybe they looked at the opportunity and thought, oh, that sounds miserable. And then they looked at another opportunity and thought, oh, that sounds fun. My friends are doing that. And I need you to understand something here with that. That's not a moral failure on your part. That's simply human behavior colliding with what you're trying to do. And you know what? Organizations can work with human behavior instead of constantly being angry at it. So before your next volunteer plea, if you're staring at 6 empty boxes on a sign-up sheet, don't immediately post, hey guys, we still desperately need volunteers. Just stop for a second. Ask some different questions. What does participating in this actually feel like? Does anybody know who they'll be working with? Is there a social component? Have we personally invited someone? That's a big one right there. Are the students excited about it? Can people recruit their friends? Do the families understand why this work matters? And is the commitment clear? And go back to your previous volunteers. Have they had a good experience with this? And maybe the biggest one here. Are we asking people to join something? Or merely asking them to fill an empty box? Because those aren't the same thing. And if one volunteer opportunity fills instantly while another one sits empty, don't get mad. Get curious. Something caused that difference. You need to go find it. Because maybe the problem isn't that nobody wants to help anymore. Maybe we've just designed helping to suck. And fortunately, that's a problem that we can actually fix. So until next time, this has been Mike with Soundstage EDU. Your volunteers don't hate you. They just might think that your opportunities suck. And we can fix that. I'm going to keep saying that. We can fix that. So let's raise the bar together.